Revenge films.
This happened more than 10 years ago. I had just gotten back from working abroad for 2 years when I found out that my sister had gotten a divorce from her husband. While I was working abroad, I was so focused on my job that I hadn't been able to pay much attention to what was going on with my sister. I knew that she'd given birth to her first child, but other than that, I didn't really keep in touch with her while I was away. So when I got back to find out that she'd gotten a divorce, I was pretty surprised. Apparently, she had taken a break from working and was focusing on looking after the baby. But it wasn't all that easy for her, as her baby would cry all through the night. And because of that, she couldn't get any sleep. It was around this time that her husband would say things like, "Can't you look after that baby better? I can't get any sleep because it keeps crying. Do your job properly. Stop letting it cry so much. You're such a failure as a mother." This started to happen quite often, and my sister soon came to think that she wasn't cut out to be a mother. One night, her husband said to her, "I'll look after the baby tonight, so you can get some rest."
But you have work tomorrow, so it's okay.
"It's fine. I'm good at looking after babies anyway. Leave it to me." With that, my sister's husband looked after their baby for the night. If my sister was looking after the baby would wake up pretty much every hour and start crying. But when her husband looked after the baby pretty much slept through the night peacefully. In the morning, see? My sister couldn't believe that her husband was able to look after the baby so well during the night. However, no one could have expected what was actually going on at the time. Since that night, her husband said, "I'll look after the baby at night from now on." And with that, the baby cried less and less every night the husband looked after her. It seems as though the husband got big-headed because of this, and so he went around the neighborhood letting everyone know of his triumph at home. "Every time I look after her, she never cries. But every time my wife looks after her, she always cries." He went around telling everyone that would listen about how great he was and how useless my sister was. Days like this continued, and soon my sister came to question,
Why does my baby always cry when she's alone with me at night?
She couldn't figure out why, and she was worried and frustrated because of this. She always made sure to give the baby the right amount of milk, clean her diapers, and rock her gently. Yet regardless, she would still always cry. My sister did a lot of research and found out that babies have all sorts of personalities. Some are quiet, while others cry for hours non-stop. But still, no matter what information she came across, nothing could help her get out of this rut. She was pretty depressed and stressed about everything going on. Obviously, not being able to fully understand her baby's needs was one of the things stressing her out. But more than that was the pressure her husband had put on her to be a better mother. She kept getting more and more depressed. But every night, her husband would still say to her, "Shut up already! Just do as I do and make it go to sleep already! You really can't do anything right, can you?" He would always belittle her, and it all came crashing down on her one night. From then on, she couldn't fall asleep at all. At this time, my sister's husband had insomnia, so he regularly took sleeping pills in order to fall asleep. But it was when she was looking at his pills that she realized something. Normally, her husband would get refills every month, but recently he'd been going to the hospital every couple of weeks. After my sister realized this, she checked the bottle of pills closely and found that,
Just as I thought. He only went to the hospital recently. Yet, this bottle already is nearly half empty. Why is it that he's going through sleeping pills much faster than before?
she still hadn't figured out why, but that night she woke up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And that's when she glanced over to her baby and realized that she didn't seem to be breathing properly. The baby was just lying there asleep with a pile of her own vomit and barely moving. My sister rushed and woke up her husband and called an ambulance. Their baby was quickly taken to the hospital and checked out. That's when the doctor told them that something had gotten caught in the throat of the baby. That's why she'd vomited. And luckily that stopped her from choking. But if she had still stayed in that condition my sister had found her in for a few more hours, then she would have been in a much more critical condition than now. After finding this out, my sister was at a loss for words. But it was after this that she was truly taken aback. The nurses had performed a blood test on the baby, and that's when they found out there were traces of sleeping pills in her system. "Do you have any idea how this could have happened?" After the doctor asked them this, my sister became panicked.
My baby had traces of sleeping pills in her system? How?
My sister had no idea how that could have happened. Yet it was at that moment she made the connection between this incident and her husband often taking sleeping pills. So she asked him,
Did you give sleeping pills to our baby?
To this, the husband replied, If that baby sleeps through the night, then doesn't that give you time to rest too? You can't just tell a baby to stop crying, they don't understand. So is it really that bad of me to have had a helping hand from some sleeping pills? Apparently, he had said all this without any pity for what he'd done. After hearing this, my sister and the doctor both were utterly speechless. The doctor couldn't figure out how her husband had been able to make the baby take the sleeping pills. But it turns out that the husband had crushed up the pills and put them in the baby's milk. Then he'd give it to the baby. Especially considering that you use warm water to make milk, it makes sense that the pills would have dissolved quite seamlessly into the milk, making it easier for the baby to consume it. My sister was completely disgusted with her husband's actions and words, and with all the rage she had bubbling up inside of her, she lashed out at him and slapped him in the face.
Do you have any idea of what you've done? There's grown adults that overdose on sleeping pills in order to end their lives. And here you are, giving it to our daughter without a single concerning thought. What would you think would happen? She's just a baby. You could have easily killed her.
The sleeping pills that her husband had been taking were obviously for adults, but not only that, they were extra strong ones to help him with his insomnia. Although we were able to get your baby quickly, there may unfortunately still be some ongoing effects to her nervous system because of this incident. My sister was so distraught that she hadn't been able to figure out quicker that her husband had been giving their baby sleeping pills. She was angry at herself for this. But not only that, her anger towards her husband still was bubbling inside of her. She couldn't believe that he told her that she was a useless mother, and that he'd gone around the neighborhood telling everyone how great he was with their baby, when in actuality, he was able to say all those things because he was slipping sleeping pills into their baby's milk. How did he ever have the nerve to give those sleeping pills to a baby, when he himself knows as an adult that he becomes sleepy when he ingests them? There's no way anyone could think that this man was sane. And the reason why their baby had also vomited in her sleep is most likely because the baby's body knew it wasn't right for it to be ingesting such chemicals and was trying to purge it out of its body. She probably also wanted to cry out for help, but her poor little body was too tired to do so because of the pills.
My poor baby. She must have been in so much pain and confusion. If she dies because of what you've done, I'll kill you. If anyone's to die here, it's you. Get out of my sight.
She burst out in an angry fit towards her husband, and she was soon taken away by a nurse to rest in another room. During this time, her husband kept getting told off by the doctor for his reckless behavior towards his baby. The hospital that had taken in the baby was also the hospital that the husband had been going to in order to get his sleeping pill prescriptions. It seemed as though the doctor that had been looking after their baby's condition was still quite concerned about the husband's behavior towards the baby, so the doctor decided to get in touch with the husband's regular doctor that prescribed him the pills. With this, his regular doctor also came down to have a word with him. What were you thinking? Were you trying to kill your baby? You know those pills are for adults! You know you can't give medicine for adults to children, let alone babies! Even children know that each individual has to take the right kind of medication and the right amount for themselves. There's no way I can prescribe you any more medicine after this debacle! Their baby had to stay in the hospital for some days after that, and while my sister waited for her baby to get better, my sister decided to bring together her parents and her husband's parents in order to have a family meeting. At the meeting, she told everyone about what had happened, and especially what her husband had done to their baby. As a result, her husband was beaten up by both his parents and our parents too. Especially his own parents were so done with him that after his dad was done beating some sense into him, he looked completely unrecognizable. Were you trying to kill your own baby? I just wanted to be able to sleep soundly at night. You're an adult already! How could you not have thought that giving sleeping pills to a baby was a bad idea? Seriously! I refuse to speak to you anymore or call you my son! I never raised you to be such a horrible person! Like this, his own dad was absolutely furious with him, and the family meeting ended up being total chaos. I never want to see your face ever again! You're no longer my son, nor a human being I want to be associated with! I don't care what happens to you from now on! My sister's husband was just crying there on the floor, but all my sister did was stare at him coldly. Soon after, they got a divorce, and her husband ended up having to pay her for the damages caused to their baby and to her through this divorce. He couldn't pay it all, so her husband's parents also pitched in order for my sister to be financially stable for the time being. His parents also agreed to make sure to do their best to look after their grandchild in the future, if she ever needed extra attention due to any long-term effects of having ingested the sleeping pills. Luckily for everyone, her baby recovered quite quickly, and it didn't seem as though she had suffered any long-term effects from this incident. The little baby from that incident has now grown up and is in the 3rd grade of elementary school. She's a ball of sunshine, and luckily she doesn't remember anything of that dreadful night many years ago. The doctor that had looked after her had said that her nervous system may be affected because of that night, but my niece actually turned out to be super clever and great at sports too, so there was no worries there either. As for my sister's now ex-husband, apparently one of the nurses at the hospital they'd gone on the night in the incident was the wife of one of the ex-husband's co-workers. She had told her husband about what had happened, and because of this, people started talking about him behind his back at the office.
Apparently, that guy gave sleeping pills to his baby.
Sleeping pills? Seriously? Is he crazy or something?
Everyone at his office soon found out about what he'd done. He felt pressured by all of his coworkers looking disappointed in him every day. Because of this, he ended up quitting the company he'd worked for. After that, because he was also denied any more sleeping pills, his insomnia got worse than before, and as a result, he got depressed. Apparently nowadays, all he does is stay in bed all day because of his mental state.
I worked in a locally popular store inside the department building downtown. My boss was strict, but she was also a very nice person. Also had the friendliest coworkers anyone could ask for, and every day was great fun. The store's main product was baked goods like cookies and madeleines. Some were sold sealed individually, and customers could buy just one for a nice midday snack, or buy a bunch in bulk. There were also some ready-made assortments that were very popular as presents. One day, a plain-looking female customer who looked to be in her late 30s came into the store and chose a few cookies, madeleines, and other snacks from the selection. As my colleague kindly collected them and calculated the price, I told our customer that the price was $20.70. Once our customer was finished putting the money on the tray, it was 70 yen short, so I said, "That will be $20.70, madam. Another 70 cents, if you'd be so kind." Our customer seemed to have been set on finishing the payment, so I thought she'd either forgotten to take out the remaining change or she did not hear me. I followed store protocol and politely asked for the change again. So far, everything seems normal, but then things took an unexpected turn. Once I repeated that she needed to pay the remaining 70 cents, her face changed in a weird way. She raised her eyebrows as she said, "Eh?" The suspicious look that she gave me confirmed that she did not want to pay the rest of the money. For some strange reason, only the medically insane could understand. "Forgive me, madam. The total is $20.70, and I must ask you please pay the remaining 70 cents. She still glared at me and said, "Why do I have to pay for this?" My coworker and I froze for a while because we didn't expect the customer to say something like that. Even a toddler nowadays understands that if you wanted to buy something in a store, you pay at least the designated amount, and things would go well for both the store and the customer. We exchanged glances wondering if we had said something wrong, but nothing we did was out of the ordinary. And the woman was so brazen, she seemed to think that what we were saying was completely insane. I had only been with the company for less than 6 months, but there was nothing wrong with the normal store clerk behavior I was taught to show at all times. This customer's attitude made me overthink things quite a bit, leading me straight into a panic attack. "Huh? Uh-huh?" my colleague and I said simultaneously. The female customer said in a tone of voice as though she was admonishing a student, "Listen, kiddies. Usually when a customer takes out a couple of full bills, it's social convention that the clerk says, 'No thank you, we won't accept the spare change.' If this were a side dish store and we asked for $20 worth of food instead of serving exactly $20, the clerk would probably serve $2 or $3 more and still settle for the price of $20. It's not right to try and even take a fraction of the price from a customer when they're refraining themselves from demanding a discount, because this would be impossible to do with baked goods, is it not? We searched for the right words in our mind to reply to this lecturing session from a lunatic asylum. The hugely imposing attitude made things so much harder. If it were a privately owned delicatessen or candy shop in a small shopping street, I could understand this line of reasoning to ask for a discount. But this is a department store. It's highly unlikely that any store would do such a thing. The department store's training regimen instructs all employees of stores to always refuse giving discounts even if asked to do so. So there was no possibility that other stores would actually give any discounts. At least discounts that were personal. If there was like a sale of half off or something official like that, or if they had some kind of coupon, then sure, by all means, get a discount. The hell? Well, thanks to you, I've lost all interest in buying shit from you. It's all your fault that our sales have dropped. She promptly left with that. My coworker and I couldn't help but talk about it a little. What the hell was that? That's definitely a Karen, right? Well, yeah, I guess so, but I've never experienced something like this. I can't believe she would demand a personal discount in a department store of all places. After that, I was serving the customers normally, but later on, a couple days later, for some reason my boss, Mrs. Garrison, called for me. She said, "I saw that you were mentioned in one of the customer feedback forms, and I wonder if this is true." Wait, what? At that moment, I had a bad feeling starting to brew in my gut. The survey form seemed to have been written by that very woman, and it was filled with complaints about me. She complained about my poor customer service, that I refused to sell anything even after she paid the money. The lousy store clerk that I am, who looks at people and serves them accordingly, etc., etc. I reported to my supervisor the events of the other day. Originally, I was supposed to report to her when a complaint's being filed or soon thereafter. But I was not scolded thanks to my coworker's testimony of what had happened, and she also backed me up and said my behavior in the store followed proper protocol. Basically, how I handled the situation was not in the wrong way to do so, but I couldn't help but wonder why I was the only one told off. But then I remembered that on that day, my coworker was wearing a cardigan she'd been authorized to wear because the air conditioning was working a little too well, and it was too cold for her. I later found out that that's why the woman couldn't see the nameplate and thus couldn't really file a complaint against her in particular. Mrs. Garrison then told me that the next time the same customer came in, one of us would report it promptly. About 2 weeks later, the same customer showed up again. When she came to the cash register with a $100 set of extravagant sweets, she said, "Oh, you haven't been fired yet? I went to the trouble of writing the department store a thoroughly descriptive note saying you should be fired. What a shame." I served her as I usually serve anyone and said, "This set will be exactly $100, madam, including tax." "What are you on about? Lest you forget, you were rude to me the other day. And yet I went out of my way to buy this product, even though the store has the worst first impression on me. I must demand a discount of $50. Last time it was 70 cents, but because I was treating her rudely the other day, the discount somehow magically turned into $50. By this point, I wasn't sure whether I was in a bad dream or not, and I just stood there for a couple seconds. I swear I could see the Windows 7 loading screen before my eyes. But I snapped back to reality and said, "I'm terribly sorry, madam, but we cannot do that. As we have previously informed you, madam, we do not offer discounts at the moment." Oh my god, you sure are a cheeky little bitch, aren't you? Do you want me to file another complaint? Want me to do that, eh? I'm going to protest to the head office this time, and this time you're definitely going to get freaking fired. While I was being told this, my coworker went to call our boss, who rushed over to the scene. "I'm terribly sorry, madam. Did one of my subordinates do something wrong?" The woman replied, "Just as well. You came in just the nick of time. I declare you need to retrain your subordinates. They don't understand the spirit of service at all." "Yes, we educate all of our staff thoroughly before they're allowed to work with customers like yourself, madam. And I beg your pardon, but neither of them said or did anything wrong." Huh? They're being freaking cheeky with the customers. I assure you, they're not doing anything of the sort. They're merely doing their jobs according to their training. What is this bullshit? All right then, I won't file a complaint directly to your head office. I'll post a review on social media. How about that? That the staff of the store takes one look at people, judges them, and serves them accordingly. And that you don't even sell your freaking products. Then this store will go out of business in a heartbeat. Well, then I must inform you that we'll submit video footage of you to the police as a malicious complainer. What are you freaking talking about? How dare you? Me, a complainer? Don't make me laugh, goddammit. What part of me is a malicious complainer? I'm just saying what I think is right. We've been having problems with the cash register lately, and we've been recording the scenes with a small camera, just in case we have any serious problems. I believe a smart person such as yourself will understand that records of all your conversations and appearances up until now have been saved, of course. It is our duty to inform people of potentially dangerous customers and that they must be on the lookout. Therefore, we'll submit all footage to the police, including the previous incident, and leave the rest to them. At that moment, the woman turned dangerously pale. As though she'd finally realized this was a bad idea, she said, I'm going home for the day. I'll come back when I feel like it. I didn't do anything. And then she pretty much left the shop in a panicked sprint. Thank you very much, Mrs. Garrison. Well, I knew she would come back eventually. But I didn't know you had a camera installed. If I'd told you, you probably would have acted unnaturally, no? We need to make sure everything doesn't seem staged, and that you always acted like a store clerk should. But she is probably doing the same thing elsewhere. I'll inform the other stores in the department store and submit the footage to the police as a person to watch out for. A month later, just as Mrs. Garrison had predicted, the woman had attempted the same thing elsewhere and was arrested. Apparently, she had tried to buy something for half the price in the exact same way as we did here. And when the clerk gave her the cold shoulder, saying that they'll never do such a thing, she got really upset and hit the clerk with an umbrella she was carrying. It was only an umbrella, but she apparently hit the clerk so hard that it broke the umbrella's backbone. And she was charged with malicious injury. I've been trained by my supervisor, and I know well that I would never be rude to a customer under any circumstances. But I couldn't help but say good goddamn riddance. And I realized that I didn't handle the situation alone because I simply couldn't. Everything was so new to me that I was pretty much helpless. It was only because of my boss's fine plays and my coworkers' quick reporting to her that we were able to collectively fight off the woman. But more than anything else, I was amazed at how well my boss handled the situation. She's become a new role model of mine, and I hope to continue offering the best service I can offer to many customers.
I divorced my wife a couple years ago, and now I live alone. I have a lovely daughter, Madeline, but unfortunately my wife took custody over her when the divorce became official. But I want to somehow have some positive impact on my daughter, even just a little bit. So every month, I never fail to pay child support. It's not just become my life as a single man. And I have a friend, Isidore, who sometimes invites me out to drink, invited me out as usual. How about we go out for a drink after work tonight? Nah, man, I'm good. Did you have another previous engagement? Sort of. My daughter's birthday's coming up soon, and I want to get her a present. Oh yeah, that's right. It's almost 3 years since you divorced your ex-wife, is it not? Now is the adorable Madeline? You've been muttering under your breath that you haven't seen her lately. I guess you want to see her pretty badly, right? I mean, duh, bro. She's such a cute little thing, my own personal angel. I don't want to see her so much. Well, my ex-wife is very hesitant about letting me see her. Is that so? I'm sorry, man. How old is Madeline now? She's in the 3rd grade. What are you gonna get her? Did you decide yet? No, I haven't. That's why I'm gonna ask the person in charge of the toy store. And the fact that I haven't seen her for a while makes me worried whether or not the present will be to her liking. My own daughter tells me that nowadays a makeup set for children is very popular. It's nothing too fancy, just some brushes, a few combs, and some paint for nails and a little bit of lipstick and eyeliner. And that's pretty much it. Now that I think about it, Madeline's only a year older than your little Miss Marion, right? Thanks for the memo, bro. Ah, come on. There's nothing to thank for such a small thing like this, dog. Think you'll meet Madeline on her birthday? I have absolutely no clue. That'll all depend on Sylvia. I really hope you see her, man. Good luck to you. Hell yeah. Thanks as always, bro, for inviting me out. Invite me again next time and we'll go crazy for sure. After work that day, I went to the local toy department store and bought Madeline what Isidore told me was becoming popular with children these days, a child makeup set. As I walked out of the toy store, I called Sylvia, hoping to negotiate my seeing Madeline on her birthday. Is Madeline there?
What the hell? I thought I told you not to bother us with calls every 25 minutes. Seriously, this has to stop.
But her birthday's only in a couple of days. Please, Sylvia, let me talk to her just for a little bit.
Well, I'm very busy right now, so I'll have to be next time.
I'm on my knees right now as we speak. Just for a tiny bit, please, please.
All right then, you get 3 minutes.
Hi, Daddy. I miss you so much.
Is that you, Madeline? Oh my gosh, it is you. How are you doing, darling?
Yeah.
Your birthday's coming up, isn't it? Well, Daddy got you a surprise for your birthday.
Really? Oh, thank you, Daddy. What is it?
You're gonna have to be a good girl and wait a little bit longer before you find out. By the way, did Mommy make any plans for your birthday?
No, she didn't. I think I'm gonna stay home all day.
Oh, really? Would you like to see Daddy?
Yeah, I want to see you, Daddy.
Right at that instant, Sylvia, who must have been listening right next to her, snatched the phone away from my daughter and started shouting into the speaker.
Out of the question, I'm not letting her see you, all right? And that's final. Besides, we have plans for her birthday already.
What do you mean by plans, pray tell? Do you have any idea how distressed I feel that you're not letting Madeline see her own father for so long? We both want to see each other so goddamn badly.
It's her birthday, stupid. Of course we have lots of plans for her special day.
I mean, sure, it's only natural that the mother of a child would jam-pack her child's birthday with lots of fun stuff to do. All right then, can I at least see her for a couple minutes just to give her birthday present?
Also out of the question. You send that along to our place through the mail.
What in the world did I do to deserve this kind of punishment? It's not like I stepped on a bug and somehow wound up killing someone. Why can I not see my own daughter on her birthday? Even the divorce was your freaking idea, telling me that you couldn't put up with my bullshit any longer, and other hurtful things like that. A rift in personalities, you said. And about the custody over Madeline. I forced myself to give that up because of you, who said it would be such a shame for a child to never see her father, who is always so busy with work.
You're so goddamn annoying. In case you didn't notice, you and I are now separated and we have nothing to do with each other anymore. And since I have custody over my daughter, if I say so, she'll never meet her father, period.
And then Sylvia hung up promptly after that. I was completely convinced that I would be able to see my daughter on her birthday, her one special day, and I was very excited. But the fact that I was forbidden to even give her her present directly, let alone tend her birthday party, I fell to my knees in shock and depression. But I didn't dare give up. There was another whole month before Madeline's birthday, so I decided to ask Sylvia again before that big day arrived. However, 10 days after that day, the same friend who had invited me out to drink, Isidore, told me the most unbelievable story. Hey, dude, you did mention you haven't been able to see Madeline for quite some time, right? Yep. It's even worse than you think. I tried talking Sylvia into letting Madeline see me on her birthday. She would have none of that bullshit. Yeah, about that. I have an acquaintance who lives in the same neighborhood as Sylvia, and he's told me something incredibly disturbing. Looks like a man is going in and out of that house. Sylvia's with another guy? I mean, why not? She and I are completely divorced now, and it's none of my business who she dates. But why do I get the feeling that has something negative to do with Madeline? Well, your gut's telling you something, and I think you should trust it. Seems that both Sylvia and that guy leave Madeline alone in the house. I'd even heard a story that they'd abandoned the poor girl when the couple went on a trip somewhere. Bro, you cannot be serious. Tell me that ain't true. I'm afraid it is, bro. That acquaintance of mine told me that the trip the couple took lasted overnight. But then he noticed that Madeline was around the house after they'd left. But he was convinced that eventually they would come back, and so he left her with some juice boxes, some Hot Pockets, and some snacks. And when he asked her if everything was all right, she just nodded her head, walked slowly into the house, and actually locked the door behind her. Isidore's story left me catatonic. My own daughter, abandoned in such a large house, alone and afraid that her mother would never come back. There's no way Madeline's going through this. And that's not all, bro. Unfortunately, the acquaintance told me that her clothes were in rags, and that even though it's wintertime now, she was still wearing short sleeves. Additionally, she appeared to be dangerously thin, as though she hadn't been fed something for days. Dude, be honest with me. Exactly how long have you not seen her? I don't think I've seen her for the better part of 6 months, but dude, forget about that bullshit. This is downright child negligence. Oh, that goddamn bitch. She will rue the day she was born. Right after Isidore told me everything, I called Sylvia, with the intention of brutally interrogating her about the situation. So, you got yourself a pretty boy now, huh?
Right as I was thinking of how nice of you to call, and you come out with that frickin' bullshit? I better call the police, because now I have a suspicion that you're stalking me. If you come to beg for forgiveness and to start all over again, you're making me blush.
Never in an eternity will I ever let that happen. And that's not all I've heard.
Then what are you doing poking around my personal business? We're divorced now, and I'm entitled to live my life the way I choose to live it.
You're right. It's absolutely none of my business about you dating another guy. But it's completely different ball game when it comes to my lovely daughter. What's all this bullshit about you abandoning Madeline while you will go off on a trip with that new guy of yours? And what about the fact that her clothes are in ruins, and that she looks thin enough that you haven't been giving her enough to eat? Explain all this now! I'm doing my part paying child support every single month. I demand to know why the frick you don't seem to be doing yours!
I'm raising her well, goddammit! Who the frick told you that boat of lies?
That doesn't matter, goddammit! Let me see Madeline! Let me see my daughter now!
I'm really busy right now, so not right now, alright?
You won't dare show me my own daughter because you don't want me to know you've been doing things to her. Is that what's going on? Let me see my daughter now! Should you refuse, I'll do whatever is possible to get the frick over there so I can see what the frick's going on!
You keep on forgetting we're not married anymore. If you come to this house and cause a fuss about this whole thing, I'm gonna call the police, you hear? I don't care what happens to you afterwards with the police. All I want is for Madeline to never see her father again.
For a split second, I started to second guess myself. If Sylvia was really doing something horrifying to my daughter, then any sensible father would immediately rush to his child's aid. But as of that moment, I didn't have any solid evidence proving her negligence. If she really did call the police, and if measures were made so that I would never be able to see Madeline again, then my impulsive action to help her didn't seem like the best solution after all. And then, on the other end of the line, Sylvia, with a tone that sounded like she won the war, added,
All your scaredy cat ass has to do is go on paying child support every month. I'm just doing my best to raise her into a nice young lady. Ciao, bastard.
And then she promptly hung up. Frick! What the hell should I do? Just to confirm some things. And I waited on a bench in a park near a school. Just to act casual, I'd bought a few sandwiches and a bottle of orange juice, and I munched on those as I waited. And then I found Madeline starting to walk home from school. Madeline, over here!
Daddy!
How are you? Tell me all right, darling. Exactly as Isidore had told me. My daughter was wearing short sleeves in the dead of winter, and she did look a lot thinner than when I last saw her. It was such a heart-wrenching sight to see my own darling daughter in such a state. I fought back tears as I said, Hey, honey. So your birthday's getting closer and closer, eh? I'll talk to your mommy, and I'll make sure you're gonna spend your birthday with Daddy, okay?
What? But Mommy told me that she's gonna take me to the amusement park on my birthday.
What? The amusement park? I couldn't believe that Sylvia could do something nice like that, but it's true. From when she was young, Madeline had loved to go to the amusement park. And even now, her eyes were sparkling with excitement as she told me about how she was going to visit it on her birthday. And the last thing I wanted was for her beautiful smile to disappear. I get it, dear. If you're going to the amusement park, then I'll give you your present sometime soon. You have fun in the amusement park, yeah?
Yeah!
Oh, and also, here's a body warmer. Feel warm and cozy, doesn't it? You can just throw it away somewhere when you're walking home, okay?
It's so warm.
Madeline, are you happy living with Mommy? She seemed to have been at a loss for words for a split second, but then she smiled and nodded her head. But that smile and that nod seemed like she was forcing herself to do that. I knew it. So what Isidore told me was the truth. Or at least it really seems like it is the truth. Don't worry, Madeline. Daddy will come for you. Just you wait. I said my goodbyes to Madeline and then immediately started to investigate, trying to find any evidence to support Sylvia and her negligence. And then I stumbled upon something equally disturbing. What? Are you sure? My ex-wife's been going in and out of an adoption agency? According to the firm I'd hired to investigate Sylvia, they witnessed her apparently acting in ways that could suggest she was seriously considering putting Madeline up for adoption. To make matters worse, the person with whom she seemed to be negotiating the adoption with was a very wealthy tycoon. It turns out that Sylvia genuinely sought after money and was willing to give her daughter up for materialistic purposes. And here's the final straw. The day the transaction was to be made was none other than her birthday! Not only was she completely destroying Madeline's excitement to be at the amusement park she loves, but she actually intended to sell a human being. My entire body started to tremble with absolute fury. How much of a frickin' slime bag could a person become? Now I know what you're thinking. Well, what the hell are you waiting for? Start making a plan to get her back to you. Her father! Believe me, I would have done that, but for the fact that I discovered all of this on the morning of her birthday. In other words, I had to act immediately and spontaneously. Good thing I'd met Madeline a few days ago and given her a private cell phone. I'm gonna give you this cell phone, okay? If you ever feel lonely, or if you feel like you're in trouble, hide away from Mommy and call me quickly, okay? This phone can only call me, so it's really easy too.
Thanks, Daddy. Are you sure I can have this?
Of course you can, dear. Just remember, if Mommy sees you with this phone, she'll probably take it away from you. Just make sure that the phone is in the best hide-and-seek player in the world, okay? One more thing. It'll be a little dangerous for me to call you on this phone, so I'll only ever call you when it's an emergency, okay? Always pick up the phone when I call you, though. Think you can do that for Daddy?
Yeah, Daddy. Thank you. I love you.
I thank my past self so deeply for giving her that phone, and I immediately called her. I told her that she should hide the phone during a normal day, and that would mean if she couldn't give off any sound either. I beg you, please pick up the phone! Then, after a few calls, I was blessed with the sound of her voice.
Daddy, what's wrong?
I nearly screamed with joy. Oh, thank God! Where are you now, dear?
At the amusement park. Why?
Okay, dear, I need you to do exactly what Daddy's about to tell you. Think you can play the copycat game?
I can, but why?
Is Mommy there with you right now?
Yeah, she went someplace after she told me to stay right here.
Thank God, this is the chance! But with the information I just discovered this morning, part of me thought that Sylvia had left her alone on purpose. She was probably right in the act of selling Madeline right now. I'm coming over to the amusement park right now, dear. Just run. Run as fast as you can and get really far away from where you are.
What? But we just arrived here.
It's all right, dear. Daddy will take you there again. But right now, the amusement park is a dangerous place. Just run, okay?
Okay, Daddy.
Till I get there, you have to hide, okay? Anywhere's fine. Just make sure you become the hide-and-seek champion. Maybe stay indoors, too. Where do you want to go?
I want to go to Teddy Bear's Diner.
Got it. I'm gonna call Teddy Bear's Diner right now, so you just run over there, okay? When you sit down, don't sit next to a window, and sit down somewhere deep inside the building, okay? Just make sure no one can see you from outside.
Got it.
As soon as I was done negotiating with the restaurant, I rushed to the amusement park. The park itself isn't too far from where I am. As I was heading over there, I also called the police for reinforcements. I'd also asked Isidore a favor, which was quite the bother, I'm sure, but he helped me out so much. He asked another acquaintance of his, who's a lawyer, to do a background check on the tycoon Madeline was going to be sold to. And it didn't take very long to make a near certain conclusion. The adoption enterprise he runs is fraught with illegalities. And just by using common sense, selling and buying children for a high price is really strange indeed. That adoption agency has been demanding a very high brokerage fee from the financially elite, and then finds fitting commoners to negotiate the selling of children. In a nutshell, this enterprise was probably the lowest level of human scumbag bullshit anyone could ever create. I have no idea how in the world Sylvia found out such an enterprise existed, but stopped them from doing business with Madeline as the product was my top priority. Please, please, please don't be found. Oh, Madeline, dear, please be the champion at hide and seek. I arrived at the restaurant, and sure enough, there was Madeline, alone, which meant she'd chosen her hiding place well.
Daddy!
Oh, thank God you're okay!
Of course I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be?
From how quickly worry spread across her face when I said that, I could tell she never dreamed her own mother would sell her to a complete stranger. Never mind that now. Let's just get someplace safe, okay? I took her hand, and after walking out of the restaurant, we made our way across the parking lot and across the street beyond it. That's the neighborhood where my older sister lived with her husband. I explained everything to Liz once we'd arrived. By the time I was done, Liz had gone deathly pale. She took a deep breath and said,
This is absolutely crazy. Someone who willingly sells their own child can only be classified as criminally insane and nothing else.
I agree with you 10,000%. That's why I'm gonna end this with Sylvia once and for all, right now. I'd just like you to hold on to Madeline until I come back.
Of course. Oh my, look at how thin you've become, dear. And your clothes, oh what a horrible sight. I have a few hand-me-downs for my daughter, just you wait, dear.
She promptly returned with her daughter, my niece's, old clothes from the living room closet, and helped Madeline get changed.
Here you go, Madeline. Change into these warm, clean clothes. You must be freezing in those rags, right? Wow, that looks so cute.
My niece, Avery, is now in high school, and Liz had kept a bunch of her old clothes, all of which had some amount of style.
Avery's actually coming home soon, so how about we have a sleepover tonight? What? I can have a sleepover? Of course. And as a special treat, since it's your birthday, we're going to take you out to pizza. Yay, pizza! My favorite food in the whole wide world!
I can rest easy now knowing my sister Liz, who has experience carrying younger children, is taking care of Madeline. She then told me,
You did the right thing bringing her here to me. Don't you worry about her. I'll keep her safe and warm. Now you go on and give that bitch what she freaking deserves. Sorry.
You can count on me! I then called Sylvia. Boy, have I got something to talk to you about!
Shut the frig up. I don't have time for that right now. Something terrible's happened.
If you're referring to the fact that Madeline's disappeared, give up, bitch! You will never find her again, because I've taken her somewhere safe and away from you monsters.
How dare you? You better not be pulling my leg or I swear on my life I'll make you rue the day you ever met me.
I already do, goddammit! I still cannot believe you intended to go through with this. Truth be told, I'd actually been investigating lots of stuff. And oh, what do we have here? My ex-wife Sylvia has been trying to sell off her own 9-year-old daughter!
What are you freaking on about? Why would I sell off my own daughter?
Sorry, but our investigation revealed the truth already. Lie and cover it up all you want. It's not gonna change things. Oh, did I forget to remind myself that you had an unbelievable amount of debt?
Enough bullshit. This isn't your business.
True. It's not my business, regardless of how much debt you have or how many guys you're mooching off of to get more money to repay them. No, that's not my business. But it sure became my frickin' business when you resorted to selling off my daughter so you could repay those debts completely.
Shut up. Just shut up. Child is legally mine. It doesn't matter what I do to her, does it? Now tell me, where the frick is she? Bring her back now.
You can't expect me to say, oh, then by all means, when my own daughter is actually being auctioned away. That child is now under heavy protection in a secluded area right as we speak.
Now hang on a sec. Way to make things concerning. I've already paid part of the money and the deal doesn't come full circle without me giving her to them. And I have to give her up, like now.
You're such a slime bag. You call yourself a mother with that bird brain of yours? You never even used the child support I paid month after month for Madeline, did you? She's so thin and her clothes are so grody, I'm surprised there weren't any cockroaches living in the armpits.
And you've been seeing Madeline behind my back this whole time? I don't believe you.
Yeah, keep up that seclusive attitude, honey, and keep me away from my daughter, who, unlike you, I love so very, very much.
Enough, Dad. Just bring that child back this instant. Oh, I know. I'll even give you a portion of the money. That's a fair deal, right? Win-win for the two of us, just like old times.
And I've had it up to here with your frickin' horse shit! I'm never, I repeat, never gonna give Madeline to the likes of you ever again! Plus, you won't get to see her in any case. The police should be there with handcuffs by now.
The frick? Who's talking horseshit now?
As soon as I discovered you were trying to sell Madeline off at a sickeningly high price, I had a deeper investigation of that agency you hired to do the job. And we pretty much immediately found out it's completely illegal. So the police should be right up your tail for turning to them to achieve your own personal goals. They're probably staying close to you so that they can find the scumbags in charge of this whole stupid operation.
What? Tell me this isn't true.
And what good would lying do me now? I told the police every last detail about what's going on. And per their request, I sent them a snapshot of your face under the title, Woman Looking to Sell Daughter.
Now hang on, you don't mean I'm going to get arrested?
Ah, looks like your brain's working for once.
Oh, hell no, help me!
Yeah, sure. Your ex-husband, whose daughter you tried to sell without even batting an eyelash, is coming to help you. Only when pigs fly faster than the speed of light will that ever happen, bitch! Right as we were talking about this and that, the people who trusted Sylvia to sell them her child into their family became frustrated about not being able to find Madeline and showed themselves before her. That's when the police intervened and apprehended them all quickly. The call I was having with Sylvia was severed right when the police took action. But then they called me directly, telling me, "We've apprehended them. We need your visual confirmation, and we await your arrival." I made my way back to the amusement park, and sure enough, I found my ex-wife bound and restrained, along with the people who wished to buy Madeline from her. As I expected, the couple consisted of an older man and an attractive younger woman, both dressed rather extravagantly, and they reeked of riches. The bastard clearly never imagined the police were right there waiting for them, and I could tell his feeble mind couldn't keep up with the sudden turn of events. His voice sounded very panicked. Sylvia, with who she is as a human scumbag, resisted the offer restraining her, and actually landed a clean hit to the jaw with her elbow. The poor officer fell to the ground, and I had to hand it to Sylvia. The officer quickly recovered, and with a stern expression, proceeded to restrain Sylvia even more painfully. Later on, I spoke to the police and to the local court of domestic affairs about how my ex-wife was planning to do what she was going to do with Madeline, as well as the fact that she'd been so immersed in her love affair that she completely neglected caring for her daughter. She was promptly and officially under arrest. Additionally, the adoption agency in question, which was only under suspicion of being illegal, albeit pretty much guaranteed, it was now confirmed. And all personnel involved in that enterprise, from the tycoon who managed it, to the people working for it, to the people who hired it to make business, were all promptly arrested as well. Sylvia claimed,
I bore that frickin' child. I have the right to do whatever I want with it, goddammit!
and this whole thing later exploded in popular media, even making its way onto famous news broadcasters. And soon the whole country was buzzing about the story of a monstrous woman who tried to literally turn her daughter into a bag of money. By the way, I asked the authorities to keep Madeline's identity a secret from the public. So now, even if and when Sylvia ever was released back into society, the label she earned, child seller, would remain with her until the end of her days. And I doubt anyone in the entire country would want anything to do with the monster that she is. After all the official stuff had finally blown over, I went back to Liz's place and went to talk to Madeline. I'm really sorry, honey, but Mommy did some pretty bad stuff, and she got arrested for it. And now she's locked up in a cell somewhere far away. From now on, you're gonna live with Daddy. The response from my daughter was absolutely priceless, and it melted my heart. Her frown slowly disappeared, and her eyes started to twinkle as she said,
I get to live with you, Daddy? Yay, I'm so happy!
Afterwards, I'd signed a contract for a bigger apartment with more rooms. Although I'd been living in a smaller apartment because I was thinking I should only do what was enough for myself, I was gonna live with my daughter, who was about to head into puberty. So I thought it best to give her more space to grow and change. I made her own private room, cause why not? A nice bed, a good study desk, a dresser full of Avery's old cute clothes from when she was Madeline's age, along with new ones I'd bought for her. Madeline couldn't believe what she saw.
Wait, this can't be my room, can it?
She looked at me full of hope, and when I nodded as I smiled, she exclaimed,
Oh my gosh, this is like a dream! Oh, thank you, Daddy!
After the official stuff I had to do regarding the whole incident, I wanted to know exactly what kind of environment was Madeline living in this whole time. So I paid a visit to Sylvia's place, with the police's approval. I went inside with a couple of officers. I found a mountain of empty instant noodle containers in the trash can, but I doubted Madeline was ever allowed to eat even something as simple as that. My rage was getting ready to overflow once again. I'm sorry, officers. I just can't bear the reality that my daughter was living in this hellhole. No need to apologize, sir. We agree. It's such a pity for such a child to live in this actual hellhole. You have my sympathy, sir. Madeline isn't showing it, but it's clear that she's suffering from an enormous trauma. So now I'm set on giving her the love and warmth she deserves. So much so that she'll eventually forget that trauma and live on to become the happiest girl in the world. Madeline, honey, you'll be living with me from now on. And of course, there will be days that I won't be home until later on because of work. So when I'm not home, be sure to go down to your Aunt Liz's house, just down the street, okay?
Yeah, Auntie also said the same thing, so I'm gonna go there all the time. Even Avery invited me to play with her sometime soon, so I'm excited.
That's good! When I was looking for a new place to live with Madeline, Liz suggested,
There are a couple apartments that no one lives in just up the street. I suggest you book a contract with one. That way I can keep an eye on my niece while you're working. Sounds like a good idea, right?
Are you sure? It's quite a burden for you, I'm sure, and I don't want to cause Randall any trouble.
Oh, shut up. It's actually his idea for you to live up there. Perfect place, he said, since we live pretty close by.
Thank you, Liz. It means so much.
Well, I do only have one child. Avery's been pretty excited, seeing as how Madeline's kind of becoming a younger sister to her. Seems like Avery's teaching some things to Madeline, too, like a bit of math and some science. And they both have so much fun studying together.
Seriously? That's so awesome. And I doubt Madeline could even get a better teacher, seeing how Avery's been kicking ass with pretty much everything I hear. Thanks to Liz's family, I'm confident Madeline won't ever feel lonely and sad, even when I get pretty busy with work. I personally told what had happened to Madeline to Randall myself, and when I was done, he said, I'm gonna make sure she never feels a single negative thing again. And I promise you, we're gonna support her no matter what. You just let her come over anytime. And don't forget, you bring your ass over here too, so that Liz can get you nice and plump with her famous cooking. Okay, well, if you insist, I'd love to. Seems like I truly destroyed my ex-wife's life with how I dealt with the situation. But Madeline has her whole life ahead of her, and it's my responsibility now to provide her the best of opportunities for her to grow and flourish into a strong, independent lady. Wish me luck, everyone, and I hope you have a nice day.
This was an event I experienced when I was the homeroom teacher of the youngest students of a certain school. I often had my students write in a journal about their experiences. That way, I could know what they would be doing at home after school, or what they were up to during the weekends. It was really fun to read the memoirs of young children and see them grow up. Such was my class, and there was once a girl I was worried about. Her name was Sophia. Her current parents had just recently gotten married, but I was worried because she'd lost her usual energy ever since. It also seemed her clothes were in much worse shape compared to before, and I was worried that her laundry wasn't being done properly. I was quite concerned for her, so I had a go at contacting Sophia's mother. Excuse me, but has something changed in Sophia's environment recently? I've been worried about her, since she seems to have lost her usual energy. And then the woman replied, Nope, nothing. There aren't any problems here. before she quickly hung up. I mean, of course I'd get even more concerned, but if I pestered any longer, I could potentially be reported. That was why I thought I would find out what was going on once I read little Sophia's journal. Then came submission day. All right, everyone, did you bring your journals today?
Yeah!
All right then, bring them to me one by one, please.
Okay!
My students were lining up to hand in their journals when little Sophia's turn came.
Are you really gonna read it, teacher?
Of course! I can't wait to find out what you wrote down, Sophia. I accepted her journal as I said so. Then morning classes came and went, and I promptly went to check her journal once recess started. Then, I was stunned. What the hell? Her drawing showed a crying Sophia being physically abused by her mother. Sitting next to them and watching was her father. Plus, both of them had monstrous faces that were laughing. It was a horrifying picture, and there was a message in Sophia's hand.
Help me. It hurts. Every day.
It was in a dialogue bubble that hovered over the heart-wrenching drawing. This... You don't mean... I immediately called for Sophia from the announcement booth in the teacher's lounge. I told the school nurse everything, and we tended to little Sophia together. I asked the poor little girl, Sophia, the nurse and I are gonna have a look at your body. Is that okay?
Yeah?
She was still wearing long sleeves even though summer was just around the corner. I helped her slowly take off her clothes. Then, the nurse and I stood dead still, horrified at the sight we beheld. Monstrous is a dangerous understatement. Yeah, indeed. I can't believe someone would go this far to a child. We didn't see any bruises on her skin we could see, but under those clothes were countless scars, new and old, severe enough to make the skin an unnatural color. I hugged little Sophia hard in my arms. I started to cry over the brutality of this reality, so I tried my hardest to wipe them away without little Sophia seeing them. You told me about this, Sophia. I'm so proud of you. You're so strong. Such a small child, with no escape from her parents' brutality. Went about and found a way to tell me how she must have racked her brain. The courage she must have had. I couldn't stop crying thinking about this. As for little Sophia, perhaps she was forbidden to cry and to speak at all, but she just sat there, staring. The fact that such a lively child lost her emotion to that extent is insane. I could imagine how merciless every day seemed to be. Should we inform the police about this? The school nurse asked me, and I answered, of course. Let's also contact the Child Consultation Center. I told my class's sub-homeroom teacher the whole story, and asked her to be in charge of the afternoon's classes. I then paid a visit to little Sophia's home, with an official from the Child Consultation Center. We found the house in complete ruin. We rang the doorbell, but no one answered. However, the door was open. I could hear voices coming from beyond the door nearby. I sneaked a peek, and found her mother partying in broad daylight with her new husband. Upon seeing us inside her house, she shouted, "Who the hell are you people?" We rang the doorbell numerous times. You would be the ones who ignored it every single time. My, you're chatty. We're in the middle of partying right now. What the hell do you want? It's about your daughter, Sophia. Huh? Did that girl do something? You were the one who did something, aren't you, madam? Those scars on Sophia's body? They were caused by you and your husband, weren't they?
That shithead brat! She blabbed!
Something inside me just clicked when the father said that. So I marched up to him and slapped him hard in the face. Shithead brat! Such as you and your wife, goddammit! To abuse such a young child often enough to give her new scars before her old ones fade away? Both of you are human scumbags!
The frick you say, bitch!
The father barreled forward to strike me, but the official who'd come along with me stopped him.
Both of you will now spend lots of quality time with us at the Child Consultation Center and the police. Be prepared!
The police! The couple broke down as soon as they heard the police mentioned. They were taken away in a police car soon thereafter. Later, investigations revealed that Sophia's mother was completely head over heels over her new husband, who was younger than her. Her actions toward her daughter began when she beheld him physically abuse her. Laughing together with her husband as they did horrible things to their daughter gave her such a sense of happiness, she confessed. Furthermore, Sophia wasn't given enough to eat to her heart's content, and they didn't wash her clothes, so she had to continue wearing the same dirty clothes in order. The father yelled,
She isn't even my child! I'm not a part of this! I am innocent!
Even the mother said, It was all because of her that I couldn't be happy. If she just disappeared from my life, I'd be so happy right now. Needless to say, they were found guilty and were sentenced to imprisonment without parole. The possibility of going to prison seemed to have slipped the mother's mind, and now, of all times, she said, "You're kidding, right? I'll change. I swear, I don't want to go to prison. Oh, no, 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 no." But the couple were apparently thrown in quite the strict facility. To be honest, I began to think slime rags like them never deserved to be out in society ever again. As for little Sophia, our school did a background check of her close relatives. We discovered her grandparents living in some land in the country who'd broke ties with their daughter. We decided to have a crack at contacting them. In the event they declined the offer to accept her, that would automatically mean she'd be put in a children's home. But they rushed to see her once they heard of everything. They started to cry at seeing their granddaughter for the first time and said,
"Everything will be okay, honey. Grandma and Grandpa will now protect you."
Sophia, darling, come live with us. It's in the country, but there's lots of nature, and everyone's so nice. You'll see.
They told their granddaughter, and maybe she understood what they hoped, but nodded and said,
Yeah!
The mother had been their only daughter, but they'd broken ties with her because of the wrongdoing she was doing. But they had a farm in the countryside, and they had more than enough savings to take care of little Sophia. And so, little Sophia changed schools and went to live with her grandparents. I gave them my contact information to her grandparents as I said goodbye. If something happens, please let me know. If there's anything I can do, I'll do my best to help. I offered my continued support for her. A year later, I received a letter. I opened the envelope to find photographs and sheets of paper. The sheets of paper were filled with Sophia's slightly matured handwriting, like a journal of all of her fun in her new life. It was the same kind of journal I'd assigned as homework on that day a year prior. The handwriting just poured out of the most precious happiness I'd ever known, and I started to cry. The photographs, probably taken by her grandfather, showed her laughing with her new friends in the country. And the parent-child walk she went with her grandparents. She was just beaming.
My name is Takako Sugiyama. I was once almost violated by a cousin of mine. Back then, I was in junior high school. Now I'm around 30. My cousin, 6 years older than me, had an intellectual disability. I'd played with him a couple times when we were young children and didn't pay much attention back then. I'd started to sense something was wrong with Hiroshi when I was in first grade, when he entered junior high school. Hiroshi was only interested in me out of a few younger cousins. Sexual interest, no matter how you tried to bend the truth. We didn't meet often because we were so far apart, but going back to our family home during vacation, for example, he would peek while I'd be taking a bath. He would take my underwear out of my luggage without asking and would keep it hidden. Sorry, Takako dear. Hiro here has something not quite right about his head. He means no harm at all. Plus, Hiro seems to love you dearly, Takako. So how about you become our child? I remember getting a bad case of the child goosebumps when my aunt would tell me this while my mother wasn't around. One particular instance that left me scared shitless was when we were playing hide and seek. Another cousin of ours was it, and me and Hiroshi were hiding. I was hiding in a narrow space between two houses when Hiroshi followed me and said,
"Takako, honey, let's hide together."
Being in the first grade, I only felt a small sensation of something off, but didn't pay it any more heed and let us hide together.
Yeah, let's.
Our cousin, who was it, went on looking for everyone, but 3 minutes hadn't passed since we started hiding when Hiroshi, who'd been hiding behind me, started to breathe wildly in my ear. Sirens to get out of there wailing in my brain, but before I could run for it, he grabbed my arm and prevented me from moving.
"You can't. We're still playing hide and seek."
It was at that moment that Hiroshi passed a hand underneath my skirt and underwear and began to touch me. Hiroshi?
Shh. Quiet. Whoever's it will find us.
I had no idea what he was trying to do to me, but fear took over, and in an effort to get his hands off of me, I screamed toward my cousins who were looking for us.
Hey! Hey! We're over here! We're right here!
After that, I never wanted to be close to Hiroshi again, for some reason, so I did my best to avoid him, even when we were eating or playing. I must say, Hiroshi really loves Takako. Why not get the two of them married in the future? They make a perfect match. My aunt would say such things in front of my mother, who I looked at with eyes that begged for mercy. I hope you're kidding, sis. Takako is still in elementary school, and she's gonna find someone to marry on her own. Sweet relief. After that, Hiroshi's feelings never waned, even after we left.
Oh, Takako, I want to see you!
Apparently, he would look at a photograph of me and pull a war cry like that. We almost never saw Hiroshi and his family again later on. But occasions like weddings of our relatives and the funeral of my grandmother left me without any choice but to see him again. But as you would expect, he would approach me or clutch his crotch as he leered in my direction. It was terrifying. By then, my mother had also noticed that Hiroshi had unmistakable sexual feelings towards me. And while she would protect me while she was around, whenever she went to the bathroom or whenever she left my side, even for an instant, my aunt would bring him over and say, "Oh, Hiro, you really do love Takako so much. Go on, touch her now while you still can." And Hiroshi himself would say,
Takako, let's promise to get married, okay?
to me, and was completely serious while I was in the 6th grade. I'd never been so scared in my life. My uncle was a witness, but he might as well have been heir. Then, one day, just when I started grade 8, while I was relaxing in my room, I heard my mother's voice and another shouting in the apartment's entrance. I wondered what was going on, but as I crept toward the door to take a look, my mother suddenly burst inside. "Quick, Takako! Get in your room and lock the door!" She sounded staggeringly threatening. I did what I was told and remained patient in my room after locking the door. Then was the agonizing, "Ah! Stop this!" of my poor mother made me want to cover my ears. It was the first time I'd heard my mother scream like that, and I knew then that something unspeakable was going on. I wanted to help her, but I was so scared my legs had turned to stone and I couldn't move a muscle. After that, just as I noticed I couldn't hear my mother screaming anymore, I heard the thumping echoes of the footsteps of someone who was definitely not her. The terror I was feeling. My mother could have been murdered, and now I'm gonna be murdered. As these thoughts passed through my mind, all strength left me, and I crumpled to the floor. The fear and the anguish of my mother maybe being murdered caused me to cry a little yelp. "Oh, Mommy!" A bit of time passed.
Oh!
Said the perpetrator-to-be, who'd made his way to my mom. He would rage a tantrum outside and wrench the doorknob violently to open the door. At this point, my terror had reached its summit and beyond. I felt a huge cold sweat, along with my blood rushing away from my face. I suddenly felt my vision begin to darken. Then, in the far reaches of my consciousness, I heard the lock break and saw a big guy I'd never seen before walk into the room.
Oh! Oh!
Said a voice without words, smiling very smugly and drooling, very rough breathing. The guy suddenly straddled my body and pulled and ripped at my clothes. Then, my mother, who I thought had been killed, came to my aid with blood running down her face. "Mommy! Takako! What are you doing to my Takako? Stop this!" My mother did her best to get the guy off of me. Upon seeing this, the sheer terror in my heart coupled with the relief caused me to black out completely. This is why my memory of the incident stops here, but as it turned out, the guy was Hiroshi. What with the time we spent away from each other, the stress he was facing because he hadn't seen me in so long caused him to go on an eating rampage, which gave him an enormous weight gain. He was so round I hadn't realized the guy was Hiroshi all along. He had a good deal of strength, too, and my mother couldn't face him. Luckily, a man who lived beneath our apartment called the police after hearing my mother's screams and the violence that ensued afterwards. I learned that he had also applied to be an officer himself before and personally came to put an end to the incident as a failed attempt. No one tells me any more than I already remember, and I also don't want to know more. So I've no idea what happened after I passed out. However, A woman who looked like my aunt from the shadows of the door said, "Takako is having periods now, and she's a full adult. Let's make a baby, lol," and was cheering him on, leaving me traumatized. I still go to treatment to this day. Hiroshi and my aunt were later tried as perpetrators of a criminal case. In case you're wondering, my aunt was sentenced to prison. It was she who drove Hiroshi to do what he did. It was hard for her to raise an intellectually disabled child with sexual desires. She claimed those desires needed to be released, or else controlling him was no longer an option. Foolishly, she apparently instigated that it isn't an unfaithful act because it was to be done on a relative. And by the way, it was also my aunt who forced their way inside of our apartment and hit my mother with a dull weapon. My mother was left with an injury that needed a few stitches, and the scars are unfortunately still visible today. Hiroshi was found insufficient to control himself because of an intellectual disability and was just given lesser punishment, penal servitude with a sentence suspension. We weren't satisfied with this, but apparently after taking whether or not one can distinguish right or wrong, and if one can control themselves into consideration, if it isn't a case where the tried can be directly condemned, they cannot be punished. No responsibility, no punishment is a law within criminal justice. Nevertheless, the fact he'd done lewd things to me over the course of a long time can't be disregarded, and I was legally obligated to receive treatment at a mental hospital, and I went there with my uncle for a while. But after all this, my uncle, now with his patch of dark history, became a figure of curiosity among his neighbors and coworkers. This resulted in him losing his job. Then he quietly moved away into the countryside with his son. As for me, even now, I spend time with the man who helped save me all those years ago, and I started to date an acquaintance of his for the objective of finding someone to marry. I turned down before after telling him about me being a victim of attempted rape and of my trauma. But he took it all wholeheartedly and helped me out for more than 10 years. It's been a long wait for him, I'm sure, but now I'm beginning to think I'm finally able to be happy with a man.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.